So I had not planned to do this show at all. It is a YouTube exclusive, by the way. We're not airing it anywhere else. I hadn't planned to do it, but I posted some things on my Instagram a few months ago that really resonated with some women. Some questions were asked, in particular, women wanting me to share a bit more about my own menopause journey to help them perhaps understand their own. They were in different places in that. And also, I just want to give full disclosure before I kind of dive in here that I do have some notes. So sometimes you might see me glancing down, but that's because I just want to make sure that I cover everything that I want to cover because there's a lot in my mind here as we talk about menopause, and I just want to make sure I honor what I've set out to do. The truth is, menopause is a big subject. There's a lot of people talking about it right now, and I have a particular reason for approaching it the way I do. I'll talk about that in a minute, but menopause, it just sneaks up on us, and before we know it, we find ourselves in some stage of it. Perimenopause, that transition period before menopause, it typically begins in the late 40s, but it can start as early as the mid 30s, I've been told, or as late as the early 50s. The exact age in which perimenopause starts varies widely among individuals due to genetics. Now, a lot of that is pretty common knowledge. And I want to say clearly that my approach in this show does not come from being any kind of medical professional, any kind of therapist, uh, bend, because I'm not either one of those. Don't try to be. I'm not going to explain medical things from a medical perspective or pretending to be knowing about those things as a learned professional. What I'm coming from in this show is someone who has been living through it, um, in many ways quietly, but someone who has experienced my own body in this and what I have learned along the way. There are a lot of things that you can get online now from medical professionals, which is fantastic. Naturopaths are speaking up and into this. And again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not any type of medical professional, have not gotten credentialed in any way in any of that. I feel like I say that a lot on the show too, because a lot of the things that, the Holy Spirit speaks to me can sound kind of counselly. And I just want you to know that, we all come from our own places of experience. And I think it's important to just continue to make that clear, especially in the body shows that I've been doing lately, because a lot of these things are very intricate: body, soul, mind, spirit. Remember, ultimately, all of that comes from the Lord. And so that's the place I come. I want to share with you today about the crazy way that I was thrown into menopause, and I didn't know it. And I think a lot of women are in that space. In fact, since that time, I have realized and I have come to know that that happens more than I ever realized. I didn't know that I was in menopause. I've heard from people in the medical profession now and the naturopath lane that happens a lot, actually. And so that gave me some form of comfort that I wasn't the only one that had been in that place. And I want to talk to you about the things that I went through: hair loss, sleep issues, low sex drive, mood issues, all of that. I want to talk a little bit about weight, but not much. I've been talking a lot about the body and things related to that. I talk a lot about that on social media as well if you want to get more there. My skincare journey, talk a little bit about that, and what has become what I call a glory mindset moving forward, which I find to be perhaps the most important thing I'll talk about in this show. Again, most of this I've been just quietly moving through on my own. It wasn't that I didn't want to talk about menopause. In fact, I talked about this on a show, goodness, probably several years ago when I did a series of shows on my podcast, Jesus Over Everything, called Your Body Deserves More Than Hype. And I did a show on menopause because at that time, a lot of people still weren't talking about it. But now I want to speak into this in a more specific way to help you know that, to help you not feel alone, but also maybe help you shortcut some of the pain of what I went through without information overwhelm. Because that is what I feel is perhaps one of the biggest struggles that we're going through right now as people online related to our bodies, and certainly as women, is we are suffering from information overwhelm. We don't know what to do. We have so many experts weighing in, and that is not what I want to add to on this show. I want to simply talk to you about my story and tell you what I've learned and tell you what I'm now, how I'm now walking through it. Because I personally don't need any more tutorials on things. I don't have extra money to spend on massive skincare systems or other systems, or also the time to focus on a bunch of those things. But physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, our bodies and souls matter. And so we need to care for them. That is crucial and important. So in 2018, I began experiencing a lot of heavy bleeding. And full disclosure, I'm going to be specific in what I talk about here. So if you are squeamish, if you don't want to hear about blood or female issues, then you might want to hop off because I'm going to talk about that specifically. We need to be specific here. I began experiencing a lot of heavy bleeding in my body. My periods at the time, which I was still experiencing, would last for extended periods of time, and the bleeding would be abnormal. I would bleed through my clothes, and it was just unmanageable with feminine products. It just was really causing stress for me and anxiety in my lifestyle daily, as to what was going to happen with my clothes, and as I got up to speak, would I have a problem and an issue there? And so I went to my doctor, and she told me at the time that I had some uterine cysts. We did some tests and found that out. And then we had to do some further testing to determine what these cysts were. We determined, thankfully, that they were benign cysts. And so on one hand, they weren't imperative to get out because they weren't causing or they weren't cancerous. However, I've been told that if they stay in your system, they've probably been in there for a while. I believe she told me, and my mind is a little fuzzy about this, so this might be my take and might be medically incorrect. But I believe that she told me that they could have been brought on by my birth process. I'm not sure, but at any rate, I think over time, if they stay in your body, they can develop into something cancerous. So it was kind of important to get them out. But more importantly than that, the heavy bleeding and bleeding through clothes and all those kinds of things, and just the way they were interfering with my lifestyle made me want to get them out. It was important enough to me to do that. So I really kind of had two options. One, I could have a surgical procedure to remove the uterine cysts, of which I had more than one, which would require a surgery and a recovery and all of that. However, the cyst could grow back. So it could be that I had to go back in and have that surgery again. Or I could go in and have a partial hysterectomy where they would leave my ovaries and remove, I think I had 7 female body parts removed. I could go in and do that, which would also be a surgical procedure. However, it would take care of those uterine cysts ever growing back again and me having to go back in and have another surgery again, which I opted for option 2, to go in and have the partial hysterectomy. It just seemed to make more common sense to me. If I was going to have a surgery anyway, why not go ahead and do that? And the reason for leaving the ovaries in was because my doctor said that it would keep me from going into menopause, because at the time I was 47, and supposedly the surgery, having a partial hysterectomy but leaving the ovaries in, was the best way to not throw me into menopause, because what they do is they do a test with your hormone levels to see if you are in any kind of menopause before the surgery is done. At least that was what they did with me at my age. And at that point, I was not showing signs of being in any kind of menopause. And so I was not in menopause. I was not entering menopause. And so that was the decision that was made. So I had the surgery, and the recovery was really smooth. It was everything that the doctor said it would be. And I had no problems whatsoever. In fact, I remember that I was kind of up and at 'em within a week, really felt good in that sense of recovery. And so my doctor had told me that I would feel better than ever in several months' time. And so I remember I was continually sort of waiting for that. But as those months went by, I was feeling worse and worse, actually. I had recovered in my body well, but then I began developing symptoms that I didn't understand that was actually making me feel worse. And it kind of came to a head a couple months into it when I began filming for the Hard Good Bible study. And I remember I was out in Texas filming that study, and I began crying uncontrollably, and I could not stop. And I didn't understand what was happening with me at the time. It was true that I was filming 2 days, and that is tiring, but I had certainly done that before, and I'd actually had a more rigorous schedule in filming before. And so this was an exhaustion that was very different, that I didn't understand as well. I was unusually exhausted in my body. I was tired in a way I couldn't put my finger on. At the same time, I had been going through difficulty with physical intimacy with my husband, and I didn't understand that. Specifically, I want to be specific about this, although I want to honor privacy in my life. Um, there was, I had burning uh, in that area, and I think that is something that I didn't understand and hadn't really been well informed about. And so I think that's important to note because I didn't understand if that was part of the surgery. I didn't understand any of that when in reality that is actually a menopausal symptom that I didn't know about. Um, and I'm being very candid with you because I think it's important that you hear this. If I had someone inform me better and had that honesty with me, I would have much better understood, I think, what was happening with me and sought out my doctor sooner rather than just sort of try to soldier through my symptoms. And perhaps that was told to me and I just wasn't clear on it. But I just know that there is not a lot of info, or was not at the time, a lot of information about it. It's just do the surgery. This is what's best for you, and you're going to feel much better. And just not really well informed in the way that I needed to be. I think that's changing, but at the time, that's what I went through. So I didn't understand what was happening to me. I was supposed to be feeling better than ever. Honestly, I didn't think to call my doctor because I think a lot of us feel like it is in some way something we're doing or not doing, we're negligent. And I just kept thinking I needed more time to recover and let that feeling good kick in. And I think as women, we are sort of always in this mode of, I'm okay. I can soldier on. And so I was talking to a friend of mine, telling her what I was going through. Is a very crunchy friend of mine, is really into sort of naturopath stuff. Love that. But she suggested that I take one of those women's health tests and that you do online. And so I ordered one. It was expensive. I think it was around $200. So I hadn't wanted to spend the money on it, but I was feeling such the pits that I finally decided to do it. And I have to tell you that it sat on my shelf for a very long time. And I just kept looking at it, kept looking at it. I thought, oh, I don't want to take the time to spit into a tube. I don't know if you've ever tried to spit into a tube, but it's hard to make the saliva that that you think you need. It's a lot easier when you're talking into a microphone. You get more saliva than you could ever want. But when you are spitting into a tube, it's actually quite hard to produce the saliva that you want. So it sat there for a long time. I finally decided that I was going to do it because we were getting ready to move into a different house, and I simply did not want to pack the test up. I didn't want to pack one more thing into a box. So I took the test, spit into the tube, pricked my finger, sent it off, and I got the test back, and it had 7 markers. It was 7 things that were wrong with me. And I began to look at the results. I didn't quite understand them, but it said you're extremely low in this area, extremely low in this area, extremely low. I mean, I was like off the charts. And so I showed the results to my friend, and she said, I mean, this is exactly what she said. She's very funny. She said, "Why aren't you dead?" And so when she said that, she followed it up by, "I think you need to call your doctor immediately." She had some things that I could do and sort of more the crunchy end of things, but she even acknowledged, she said, "I think you may need some medical intervention. Let's definitely call your doctor on this." So I called the doctor, and I actually sent my doctor the test results, to which she said, "Oh, you're in menopause. That's why your numbers are like this." And that is when I realized that all of the symptoms that I'd been having since my surgery, that I couldn't quite put my finger on, that I couldn't quite understand, that I kept explaining away, that I kept just saying, "Oh, it's going to get better. I'm sure it's going to get better." They were actually chemical, hormonal things that were going on in my body. They were menopause related, something I would have never really considered simply because I had not been in menopause before I had the surgery. Supposedly, by leaving my ovaries in, it was not supposed to throw me into menopause, of which it did. And here the proof was in the pudding. And it took me doing one of these online tests to tell me what my body was already telling me, but I didn't know because I wasn't well educated on what the symptoms were. And also, I didn't listen to my body. I kept ignoring it. And like I said, I've since found out that it's very common, some things. And one of those things that I found out is very common is that this surgery actually does send many women into menopause, even though it is said not to by leaving the ovaries. Now, I'm not saying that doctors are lying. I'm not at all saying that my doctor was in any way lying. I think that it just medically happens. Um, I don't know why. Again, I'm not a doctor, but I know that it is what happened to me. And I have heard from other folks that this is a common story, that they have heard that multiple times from other people, that they weren't in menopause, they had this surgery, left the ovaries in, and they too immediately were thrown into menopause, even though leaving the ovaries was said to have not done that. So, what I'm telling you is, I'm still grateful that I had the surgery. It helped remove the uterine. It helped remove the uterine cysts that would have or could have caused a problem, and certainly were interfering with my lifestyle. So I needed to get those out. I still feel like it was the right choice. What I wish in it is that I had been better educated as to what could happen and what did happen, and know what symptoms to look for to know, oh, you are in menopause. And that's why I'm telling you the full story, so that you might be prepared if those same symptoms quickly come. Because what happened then is I had to make a very quick decision. Would I go on hormone replacement or not? And I'll be honest, I didn't have a lot of time to think about it, because at that point, at which I finally went to my doctor after menopause started those months back, because it had quickly started and I had been experiencing the symptoms due to being in menopause but didn't realize it. By the point I went to my doctor, I was in pretty bad shape, honestly. Hormonally, chemically, emotionally, I was in pretty bad shape. And so I was moody, I was angry, I was feeling a lot in my body, and I needed some medical intervention fairly quickly because I was not at all myself and I needed to do something. And so it wasn't really an option for me to try other maybe crunchy methods at that moment. I needed some medicine. I did some light research to feel good about taking an HRT. And I will say that I came to the conclusion that even experts don't agree on whether HRT causes breast cancer, and things like that. And I felt comfortable with the fact that ultimately, between the dire need that I had emotionally to be on this medicine and the fact that my mother has been on a hormone replacement for the better part of 35 to 40 years, she's extremely healthy at 80 years old. And we don't have a breast cancer risk in my family. And I knew that I was going on a very low dose, that I went ahead and said yes to it. And I did that fairly quickly. And it has been great for me for the past 4 years. It has been somewhat of a lifeline for me in the past 4 years. And so at first I was taking it orally. I have switched to a patch because I've since learned that it's better for me not to digest it through my liver in the oral form. And so that's where I am with it now. And the patch is seems to be working really well with me. For me, we had to kind of switch the dosing of which I had because at first it wasn't working as well. So we switched the dosing on it, and I feel good about that. So some of the symptoms that I've had in menopause have been hair loss, low sex drive, weight gain around the middle, certainly mood changes, including gloominess and sleep issues. And all of these things are completely real. And if you're experiencing any of them, know that they're absolutely part of the menopausal territory and might even be perimenopausal. You might be just on the cusp of entering menopause. So I want to tell you where I am with how I operate in my body at this point. And then I'm going to close out the show with some practical tips and suggestions for products that I love that have been working for me. First, remember, I come at this as a regular woman who has had plenty of body issues throughout my life. I've been very fit at certain points. I've been chubby at certain points. I've struggled at one point with disordered eating. I've known every calorie count, every fat gram. I've been on more diets than I care to remember. I've sort of run the gamut with this. I am also a Bible teacher who God has supernaturally changed my life from the inside out about everything, including in recent years, radical breakthrough with my body. And this has led me to not only transform the way that I no longer self-loathe, but I also no longer rush my body in any weight loss or exercise program. I no longer overwork or judge myself or compare or suffer from disordered eating, which I still consider a miracle because that continued for a long period of my life. So even though I might not have binged anymore, I still had skewed thinking. And that still is a part of disordered eating because you still can have orthorexia where you have a hyper focus. This is sort of condensing the definition, but you hyper focus on healthy eating. I've had a lot of different eating issues throughout my life. And God has really healed me from even that. I also don't live in a world where I overly focus on the appearance like I did, really in any capacity anymore. And this new glory mindset that I carry, and I believe this is God's intervention in my life from studying what I did to write my body and soul Bible study. That's really when breakthrough happened. And for the first time in my entire life, 50 years, honestly. The new glory mindset that I carry, which comes from 1 Corinthians 10:31. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. That is the glory mindset that I carry. It's led me to do steady and wise due diligence about my body, including seeking out a hybrid of medical counsel, both traditional and a more holistic approach in the past couple of years. I respect physicians and health and fitness experts, as well as mental health experts. I believe they do good work in helping us with body goals and body wellness, different from whole body theology, a part of how that plays out, but it's not the same as the biblical grounding that we need first and foremost. However, and as an addendum to that, I don't believe any experts for our emotional or physical health should substitute both a common sense approach that I believe comes with the wisdom of the Holy Spirit. Most importantly, what He brings to us, because everyone else is just human, including myself and any counsel you get from this show. The wisdom of the Bible is the groundwork for how and why and what our bodies were created. Period. End of story. If we want to know how anything works, we go to the source. We go to the designer. I mean, that's where everything stops and starts. The designer, the creator, will always inform best, since it was out of their own mind that the system was set up. And whose mind is better to know about our bodies but the supernatural and divine mind of God? This is why a common sense eating approach works best for our bodies. Not because some guru and a great guru, I'm not saying that, I'm not throwing shade, but that's not what someone online came up with. The food God created versus processed food. Designer, God, came up with this idea. Our bodies created to move versus stay stagnant. God created our bodies to move. People created for community versus isolation. God created the system of the body of Christ. Systems needing water and sunlight to thrive. God created sunlight. He created plants to need that kind of nourishment. He created that whole idea and system. Guys, I hate to tell you, but it's not rocket science. It's not. I don't need to be a fitness or food expert or have a PhD to tell you this. I just need to look in the Bible, and you do too. So for instance, when I had a hysterectomy, my doctor told me that the female body is like producing estrogen, and my body no longer made estrogen. So it made common sense to me. So I took her advice and got on an HRT. Now, is an HRT perfect science? No, it's not. It's a manufactured way for my body to produce estrogen. I'm doing the best I can, living in a fallen world and taking the advice of a medical professional, because I use common sense, the wisdom of the Holy Spirit, and do what I can. And that's the way I approach this. I wish that I had known earlier, so I could perhaps have tried a more natural way to do it first. However, by the time I knew, my body was already in a pretty dire need of getting some medical intervention. So I did the best with what I knew to do. It wasn't my imagination that I felt awful without it. My moods were horrible. I felt physically terrible. The proof was in my body. And I don't suggest that you need to do what I did. Some folks take a different approach to solving the issue. I just knew my body was at the point that I needed medical intervention called an HRT. I need to say this, and I've openly talked about it before, because we need to normalize what happens chemically in our bodies at a certain point, and we need the Lord to help us know what to do about it. There's zero shame in taking meds. As I said, I've been on the HRT for some years. It's helped me so much through menopause, so much. Praise God for it. Has God helped me the most? Has prayer helped me the most? Has Bible reading helped me the most? Absolutely, because anything for life, God is my ultimate source. And I'm grateful that I also have this modern medicine to be able to help me. As I've now switched from a pill to a patch, added in progesterone after meeting with a friend who works in the fitness industry, who also works for a naturopath doctor. Both of those things were her suggestions to move to a better way of ingesting HRT and also bringing in progesterone. It was so wise. I got her counsel as well. Also prayed about this, pray about everything. I'm so grateful for those suggestions from her, because progesterone, by the way, has helped me sleep and has helped me with some bloating issues as well. So you have to really, really understand your body. And my glory mindset has helped me do some research that I needed to do for some years. Not overload with research, but just some natural research as I've been just looking into it as a part of my lifestyle. It is a both and approach for me with traditional medicine, naturopath, after getting some of my blood work done. In fact, in the months ahead, I'm going to be doing some more extensive blood work to make sure I'm doing all I can to get my body healthy in this season, simply because in traditional medicine, what I've found, they don't check for some of the things that I would like to check. But even that is not the end of the road for me. I am on a continued journey to honor God in my body. And so I'm going to check my levels, food, movement, to the glory of God. Just going to check in. I'm going to continue to check in with my body. That is part of living with the glory mindset, not about how skinny I am or focusing on one aspect, not focusing on the one aspect of getting sleep, getting hydration, getting protein in, sex life, work life, church life, all of that. But a glory mindset of, is my body, am I, me, body and soul, living to please God in all the ways? And is it in proper balance physically, emotionally, and spiritually to be able to do that? Because that is part of what I've learned with my whole body theology. There's so much information out there about this part of the body and this and do that and do that. It can be overwhelming, but it does not have to be when you have the proper foundation and proper grounding of whole body theology. It set me free. I don't live in frenzy anymore. Praise God. I want you to take one thing at a time. Have you gotten your blood work done? Are you paying attention to the symptoms in your body? Are you exploring a common sense approach to addressing needs in your body? Sunshine, walking, hydration, laughter, prayer, rest. Are you getting the medication you need when you need it? Are you letting things go? And I don't mean in a good way, because there's things we need to let go. That's actually another thing we need to do. But are you letting things go? Like, are you blowing things off? So you've had symptoms like I did for months and months and months, and you're like just ignoring them. So are you ignoring things? Or are you following up with things? Are you paying attention? It's so important. You only have one glorious body, so take care of that body. So, as we close out, I want to tell you a few practical things that I've used that I love to help me in this menopausal season. It's going to include links to the products in the show notes. Only a few, I have to say, I am an affiliate for. Others I just love and recommend, but I can also promise that the affiliates that I have are also things that I love, or I could not bring myself to recommend them. That's just how I operate. I have to really love what I recommend. First of all, for hair loss, I use good old minoxidil. When I posted about my hair loss journey online, I had a lot of people reach out with their line of products and offer to help and send me things. But the truth is, I have never used a shampoo or any product that has been suggested to me that really worked well um, until I used minoxidil. Now, I haven't been using it for very long. I haven't seen this massive progress, but I have seen it help and work some. It is uh, been a proven hair growth product in Rogaine. It's the active ingredient in Rogaine. So, that's been around forever. It's dermatologist approved for many years. And I use the dropper kind where you literally just squirt it in your hairline or any places that you feel like you're needing hair growth. And the key with it is to be consistent. I get it from a company called Muesli. It is a company online. There's an app that goes with it. And you basically just take pictures of the areas of your hair. It's like the front of your hair and both sides of your hair. And a board certified dermatologist online will fill a prescription for you. And again, the key is just to be consistent with it. So that's what I would recommend for hair loss. I really don't think the shampoos work. I do still use one that people recommend. I don't even know that, can't even think of the name of it right off, but like ones with biotin or whatever in it. But I've never used Nutrafol or anything like that. So I've heard mixed reviews on it. It's quite expensive. I think the minoxidil product is just as good. The oral form of it, I've heard has some side effects, so I don't take that myself, but the dropper kind of the minoxidil, and the key is to kind of get it in your scalp too. So some people use the scrubbing product to put it in your scalp. My hairdresser told me that really if you just use your fingers, that works just as well. For skincare, I use, I think it's pronounced tretinoin. tretinoin. I'm not sure, but it's Tretinoin. It's basically retinol. Um, I have used this product for about 6 months and I love it. Now, full disclosure, I have genetically pretty good skin. I got that from my mother. Thank you. But I have not taken good care of my skin. I have not been a grown up about it for years and years and years. It was not till literally about a year ago that I asked a couple of my good friends who are big skincare people what I should do. Up until that point, I was using makeup wipes on my skin. That is the truth of it. I'm embarrassed to say it, but literally makeup wipes to take off my makeup. And that was my entire skincare routine, that and moisturizer. So I just am pretty low maintenance with that stuff. I don't like to spend a lot of time getting ready for bed. Um, but I have been using this tretinoin that was recommended to me. It is um, it is a smoothing product. It has anti-aging benefits. It's also used to treat acne. And apparently, according to dermatologists, and I have heard this from numerous people, it's really just as good as Botox. I am not, if you've heard me talk about this before, I'm not a big believer in Botox. For myself, I don't like it. I don't plan on ever doing it. And I've never done it. So I don't know about Botox as far as how it's effective or not effective, but I don't personally like it. So um, I also get this product from Muesli. It is something that you also need to be very consistent with, but I'll tell you a few things about it. It is it is a little bit harsh on your skin, so you need to know what formula to start with. Probably the least amount of it is what they'll recommend for you. Again, you'll be set up with a board certified dermatologist. They'll have you send pictures of your makeup free skin, and so they'll go from there with you. But it is it is good. I really really like it. I like even the benefits that I've seen just in my lines here around my mouth, and some of that in like smoothing my skin out. It makes you very sun sensitive, so be very careful when you go out in the sun because you will be very sun sensitive. Basically, you just need a good makeup remover and cleanser. I love Pharmacy is the brand I use. It's a little bit more on the expensive side, but it goes a long way, lasts for a long time. It's literally like taking butter out of the jar, and you just use a little bit on your fingertips. It is so creamy. I love it so much. You can use it on your eyes, your whole face. And then I use tretinoin and a moisturizer, and that's all. Every now and then, like every week or so in the shower, I'll use an exfoliant, a very mild exfoliant on my skin. I use Clinique, I've been using it forever, and that's it. It has to be very low maintenance for me, or I won't do it. I don't use a fancy skincare system that costs a ton of money. I don't think you need it. There's never been anything proven to me from a dermatologist that that helps you in any way. And so, again, I use a makeup remover. Sometimes I even use wipes still, just something to get your makeup off with. Pharmacy, or I use Neutrogena makeup wipes, and I use tretinoin, and then I use a moisturizer, a not expensive one. I don't even know the brand right now, but Cetaphil I know is even a good one every day. And then every now and then I use an exfoliant in the shower. For your gut, which a lot of times in menopause, like your gut will, you'll have gut issues, especially for women. I love Armra. I've been using Armra. Now, I had used Metamucil and things. I think that kind of makes my stomach really wonky, actually, kind of tears up my stomach. But I've really liked Armra, which is colostrum in a powder form. Um, and colostrum, as you know, is that early breast milk that contains all the nutrients that a baby needs. And it is the thing that I have loved the most to keep me regular in my gut. Every day I put one of those packets into my water bottle, and I will drink that. If I drink one of those a day, it just does what it needs to do. I also sometimes will use a scooper form of it and put that in a smoothie. It has no flavor, and you can't taste it. The only thing about Armra is it can't be in a hot drink, so you could never put it in your coffee. But anything cold is good. It's also apparently great for skin and hair growth, nails as well. So, I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense because it's the nutrients that a baby needs. So that's also good. As far as supplements go, I take daily magnesium and just one pill a day at least, and a vitamin D at least every day. I try to take those two things every day at least. Usually with my lunch, I'll just pop those in. Also, biotin. I have like biotin gummies that sometimes I remember to take, sometimes I don't, but it helps with hair growth apparently and skin and nails. I'm working on upping my protein. My son helps me with that. He's really into nutrition and fitness and things like that. So he helps me with that. That's protein is hard for a woman to get in all our proteins. So sometimes a protein powder or whatever helps with that. But I always eat 2 eggs every morning for breakfast. That's just a given. Every morning I eat 2 eggs. Um, Walking routine is 15 minutes after every meal. I try to do that. My son also helped me with that to know what to do. I'm working on doing weights 3 times a week, free weights. I have some in my office. Um, but that's kind of a body goal that I have, is to work on incorporating more weights into my lifestyle. I have some other fitness goals that I'm going to keep to myself as of right now, but I'll let you know if I reach them. But those are just body goals. Um, and I just want to say this very briefly, just because I want to honor and respect my own privacy. But some of you may be thinking through this, because I know for women, and I just want to speak this because I think this is very important to be honest about. For women, with menopause, sex is really difficult because of chemical things that are happening in our bodies. Our sex drive is really low, and I want to normalize that. I really want to normalize that. Um, as for sex drive, sometimes your doctor may suggest that you take a little testosterone to try to help with that. I did not find that to be particularly helpful. And so you might introduce a little bit of that, but I just will let you know not to get to just be discouraged if you try that with your cocktail of estrogen and it doesn't work. I didn't see a marked difference. So just putting that out there, you could try it. It didn't work that well for me. You may want to leave it alone. There may be some other things to try. Naturopath doctors may have some other suggestions. That's all I know. There's a lot more I could say, but for now, this is what I'll put out there. Hope those things help. And I just want to say one more thing, because this has really been pressing on my heart. I want to give encouragement to women who are really feeling like it's difficult to keep up with the perceptions of what to do, what not to do. This is not to shame anyone who has gotten Botox or, doing, GLP-1s or all of those kinds of things. Um, I feel like opinion is just opinion. There is nothing in the Bible that speaks directly to these things. Certainly, I think there's some scripture that talks about running the race with endurance, and I think there are some things that help us know that you know the way that we conduct ourselves is by really keeping our eyes focused on Jesus and not ourselves, and with short-sighted body goals. And so I do pray and trust that learning a whole body theology will help you know what to do for yourself by asking yourself some questions. I've already said that I think there is no shame in taking medication for what you truly need physically in your body. I also think that listening to secular culture, there's a big push to just have quick fixes. So I also don't believe in that. But I just want to say this is more on the cosmetic end of things. I really believe that the pendulum is getting ready to swing the other way, about instead of just always trying to keep up and fix ourselves and make ourselves look better, especially in our looks amongst women. You know, always in our society and culture, in secular culture, there's this real bend to to try things and do things, and we max out on things at a certain point and we go too far. And when we take ourselves too far one way, we begin to really tire of that, and really the bubble begins to burst. And when it does, there is a revisiting and a reawakening of just a calibration of what is true and real and where we need to be, because we even get sick of ourselves, honestly. And I think about the Kardashians, and I think about Kardashian culture, and even their show called Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and how interesting that title was. I don't know what their when they titled that show, and their producers titled it and the creators of the show titled it. I don't know what the idea was, but I think it's so telling and so on point, because we have all been trying to keep up largely with that group of women in one way or another, an image that is really bought and manufactured. Their looks have been bought, manufactured, and pulled and gone under the knife and shot up, and it's not even real. It's not even real, even for them. And so I think there's a real awakening of women who are saying, enough is enough. I can't keep up. I don't want to keep up. Um, I am who I am. I am the age I am. I'm going through menopause. I've been given this body. This is the body that I have, and certainly I can work on it. Um, I can move in it. I can, I can live in it, and I will do well in it. But I am not going to try to fix myself constantly. I'm not going to try to fixate on myself constantly. I am not going to treat myself like a project or an object or a prop. And that's the point. So I believe that the tide is turning. And I believe we're going to return to a common sense approach to our health. We're going to love ourselves again in the way that God intended, see ourselves again in the way that we really are. I really hope and pray. And I believe that when we as women say, enough is enough, I there are things about my body that I know are less than perfect, but I have peace. I have peace. And I really firmly believe that body and soul will be a help with that. I didn't spend, 2 years of my life writing and researching this, and God didn't do the work in me to change me to have that be true. Someone just asked me on a show, they said, do you, after doing all this work, do you still struggle with things? Do you still deal with things? And I said to her, there are still moments that I will have a thought, oh, I wish I was this size. Oh, I wish I was thinner or something. Most of the time, it's when I see a picture on social media of someone else who I know has gotten really thin. But what is different is, one, it's usually a quick passing thought where it used to be a consuming thought all day. And two, I don't live with the weight of it. I literally don't live with the consuming thoughts. I don't live with the self-loathing. I don't live with certainly with any of the shame. I just don't live with that stuff anymore. I don't. The yoke of that has been removed. And I wish that you knew me even 3, 4 years ago, because I could never have said that. In fact, before I started writing the body study, I remember saying to the Lord specifically, God, will I ever be free? And the answer, yes, I am free. I am free. And it's just like anything else in my life now, whether it's a lustful thought or a angry thought or whatever thought it is, I take it captive. It's just, it has gone to a regular thought. It is not a consuming thought anymore. And that's something that I've never had in my entire life. And so I hope the show has informed you in some way, made you feel not alone, and most of all, encouraged you to see a doctor if you need to. Give yourself grace if that's what you need, or listen to your body if she's telling you something off. I pray if you haven't gotten body and soul that you will do that, because I think it'll change you. And I think all of this show will come under that and make much more sense. With the whole body theology, everything has for me. God has made us so intricate. A glory mindset is being all in to give your body to God every day because he loves you so much.